we knew was going to happen sooner or later. Yes, the Toledo Walleye lost a game as we welcome in Matt Melzak, the voice of the Walleye. And Matt, 18 games. We've talked about this for, 2 months at this point. You just don't go through that type of stretch of hockey. It finally came to an end Friday with a familiar face kind of leading the way as Pat Nagel had a great game on Friday for Reading to beat Toledo.
Yeah, he really did. And we knew that'd be tough going in because that's part of the reason why you don't see a lot of 18-game winning streaks. Because of the fact that there's going to come a game where you're going to run into a goaltender who just stands on his head, plays great, and really Pat Nagel did. His play in the first and second period is what won them the game. Now, they played better in the third period. I thought they outplayed Toledo, or pretty even there in the final period of play. But you know what? Pat Nagel saved them early in the game, especially in the second period when Toledo was dominating. Should have been up 2 or 3 to 1 going to that third period. It didn't happen. He held Toledo to 1 goal, and you end up taking a 4-2 loss. Hats off to the team. What a great run. And it's what we've talked about for a long time, Mark. The fact that you're able to find ways to win games, even when you don't play great. Toledo was able to do that some nights. And then to not run into a hot goaltender it's pretty crazy. But you got a very good team in Reading, and you have a great goaltender there, as we know, in Pat Nagel.
Walleye have had plenty of guys called up to the AHL, and we see this almost every year. You get into March, all of a sudden you're signing guys fresh off of college, and a couple of those guys are already making an impact immediately for the Walleye this season.
Yeah, they certainly are. I mean, you look at what Ryan Cox did this past weekend alone. I mean, he had 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists in 3 games. I mean, come on, that's terrific out of Niagara University. He's had at least a point in all games that he's been at. For Toledo, 5 games. He's got over 5 points, so he's averaging over a point per game. You look at Jake Willits, signed out of Lake Superior State, Monroe native, pops in. He's got all kinds of people at the game watching him. He scores a goal in each of the first 2 games. And then Derek Dashke ends up having a 3-assist game on Sunday. So you're all of those guys that have been brought in are producing in a certain way, and you have to have that a little bit at this time of year. It just seems like every year you got to find that college guy that can come in and help you out.
Another guy that's come in and helping out, an older face. TJ Hensick made his season debut. A couple of assists this weekend for the former captain.
Yeah, certainly. He's still kind of, I hate to say getting his feet wet a little bit, but, in a way he is, because it's a guy who hasn't been playing in a while now. He just gets a couple of practices in, a couple weeks of practice time just to kind of get up to speed again and jump back in and played a regular shift pretty much all weekend long. So, you can still see, his mind is still there. That vision part of the game never goes away, as maybe some of your physical skills diminish a little bit. Not saying that his have, but, you start to go a little bit in that regard, but your mind can stay there. And for him, he still thinks the game so well, he'll be a great asset down the stretch.
The record doesn't necessarily reflect it. Sebastian Cossa went 1-1-1, but my goodness, was Sebastian Cossa on top of his game this weekend.
Yeah, I thought he played fantastic. I mean, you look at Saturday, that game ended up being a 5-1 game in favor of Toledo, and it looks like a runaway on paper, but it really wasn't. It was a closer game than that. And we saw Sunday, even though Toledo got up 3-0, and they ended up losing that game in a shootout, Sebastian Cossa had 40 saves in the game. I mean, he was outstanding. That game probably shouldn't have even been that close, but without his goaltending. So hats off to Greenville. They played very well. They got a very strong team. That's going to be a tough team. That's going to be a tough out for teams in the South Division.
And the great thing about the Walleye this weekend, they're back at home, and hockey games don't get rained out.
That is true. Hockey games will be played all the way through no matter what happens outside weather-wise. Hopefully it'll end up being better for the Toledo Mud Hens as they get underway. But doubleheaders all weekend, Mark. 3 hours before the hockey games when the baseball games are all going to start all weekend long. It's going to be fun. Double dipping all weekend long. It's going to be great.
And you'll be able to see those Mud Hens games and those Walleye games live on BCSN and BCSN2. Check the listings. Each night will depend upon which game is starting when, but all those games will be on BCSN and BCSN2. Matt Melzak, thank you so much for joining us and talking a little Walleye hockey.
You got it, Mark.